My name is Farouk Meralli. So normally what I would do is talk to you about what I'm proposed to, but instead today I thought I'd talk about how you can find your own opportunities within healthcare and how you can deliver solutions for those opportunities. So at Clinica, personally, I have this belief. We believe that healthcare is fundamentally broken. It does not work well. It doesn't work well here. It doesn't even work well in the world's richest country, the US. There are systems that don't talk to each other. There are physicians who deliver care that is not at standard. There are patients who receive a lower quality of care at a higher cost of care than is possible. But we also believe that it can be fixed. Frankly speaking, we wouldn't have entered the space unless we thought we could. And maybe we're just crazy, maybe we're born optimists, but we actually believe this. We believe that solutions are not just going to be patchwork or bandage solutions, but you can create solutions that are transcendent, that connect the fragmented nature of healthcare. And that's really what we're trying to go after. So how do we think about it? We're sharing our internal model of how we think about healthcare problems so that it gives you ideas for how you can tackle the space. So healthcare to a lot of people is somewhat of a black box, but let's simplify it. First, you start with the patient. I mean, all of us in this room are patients at some level or another. And if you think about the patient, we think about it in terms of the 4 Ps model, right? So this is some framework that we have that we consider the primary stakeholders. And what we define those by are the touch points that a patient sees within the healthcare ecosystem. So let's start with provider. So loosely, these are termed providers of care. So these are your physicians, your nurses, your radiologists, the people you interface with, as well as the institutions in which they work, hospitals, clinics, and so on. The second part is payers. So Paolo mentioned this, right? You have private sector payers, Medicare, MaxiCare. You have public sector, PhilHealth, and you have out-of-pocket, self-pay market, right? So how do you pay for care? And then for us, and we split this out as a separate category, it's pharmacy because it's an important part of our business. But this is really where you get your medicine from. So, this is a very simplistic model, but it's not at all. And this is part of the problem. Healthcare is so fragmented, it's so broken, and that's why it's hard to solve. Why? It's not just because there's many stakeholders, but it's because stakeholders are connected in so many different ways. So take a look at a simple example. Let's use Eric. You go in there, you actually get a radiology scan. So what goes into that? Well, let's take it a little bit step further. Let's look at the supply side. You have a GE or Siemens who has to build a machine. They have to get FDA approval. They have to get FCC or similar type of regulatory body to approve that device. That device needs to hit a distributor or wholesaler. It needs to bring it in the country. It goes to a sub-distributor. It goes to a hospital, right? It's finally in there. Then you need to get a lab tech who needs to be trained. Then you have to get a radiologist who's trained to read it. Then on the demand side, a physician needs to identify that the patient needs a scan, needs to give a lab requisition form. That patient needs to go into the radiology, get it actually filled, get the scan. Now that scan needs to go transfer back to the patient via the physician so that the counseling session can take place, and then action needs to be taken for the patient to actually take the step. Yeah? So I think I did that out of breath, I'm not sure. But that's just one example. And you see all those touch points. And then you look at it one step further. Every single one of those steps is regulated. The FDA is involved, the FCC or similar type of body for the device side. You have patient privacy laws, you have HIPAA or similar type of law. You have all sorts of touch points, and everybody's regulated, whether it's the FDA, the PRC, or whatever body it is. This is one of the most complicated industries to actually tackle. And that's why innovation is so slow. I mean, that's why right now you're dealing with systems where you have St. Luke's on one medical system, you have Makati Med on another, and nobody talks to each other. There are economic reasons, there's other issues, but that's a thing. And even the US has the same problem. Part of Obamacare was to try and force hospitals to share data, right, through meaningful use and interoperability. So these are problems that even very advanced countries can't solve well. So how do you do this, right? So it's very complicated, it's somewhat overwhelming. But if you still want to innovate in this space, there are opportunities. And again, I want to go back to a simple one. Look at primary care. So let's take an example. One day you wake up in the morning and you have a blue patch on your arm. You don't know what it's from, some sort of skin irritation. So, let me ask you guys a question. How do you guys think about care? So does anybody want to answer the question? You have something on your arm, what do you do? How do you think about how to solve that problem? So you want the internet, okay? So what do you look for on the internet?
Blue patch.
Okay, what if there's no information on blue rash? So family network, right? This is about the question of how do you identify care, right? How do you identify the provider of the care or health information that helps you make that decision? So the first real touch point where you can look for opportunity is how do you identify the provider, right? How do you identify the source of that care? It's about finding doctors, it's about finding quality doctors, it's about finding, doctors that can help your specific condition. All right, let's look at the second aspect. You walk into a doctor's office. How does that provider look at you? How do they make that decision? What's that guiding information that they have? Are they educated well enough to make that decision well for that patient? What kind of assistance do they have to guide them? I went to a doctor the other time, he brought out a textbook and started flipping through pages. And I was like, I have a cold, why are you looking through a textbook? But this is what happens. Are these the decision tools that guide them in care? And then what is that follow-up? You've done a diagnosis on a patient, 72% of cases result in a prescription. So are you going to get that prescription filled? Are you going to go see a radiologist or a lab? And what is the touch point of the physician following up with that care? Right? So think about issues of patients finding doctors, doctors treating patients, follow-up of that patient after the visit, and then interaction with pharmacy. So we play heavily right now in this, we're moving across the chain, but pharmacy, right? And as Paolo also mentioned, hey, a lot of this market is out of pocket. So how do people pay for medicine? How do people pay for healthcare professionals, for goods? And how do you make that experience better and cheaper and more affordable? Right? So these are opportunities across it. I think looking at simple models tends to get rid of the noise and complexity and gives you a starting point to look at how, right? Break it down. So, now you've found some challenges. You look at Will Green's Big Three. These are the innovation opportunities, right? Telemedicine, connected medical devices, health informatics. Lots of solutions within these categories to find answers to these problems, right? So, now you've heard about the complexity of healthcare, right? You've heard about how you can identify challenges within it and start to think about that process of solving discrete problems in healthcare. But remember, at the end of the day, if you're in healthcare, you are unlike any other industry. This is not building Flappy Birds or shipping product shoes from a warehouse to, someone. But anyways, it's about people, right? We do what we do because yes, there's a financial gain, but there's also the ability to make an impact. And you need to take this seriously. Even though we're in technology, our technology can affect lives. And not to be so morbid in the morning, but this is the Helena Lambert story. So this is a classic case of when technology went wrong. So this is a Canadian case where essentially a pharmacist is prompted, there's software to prompt when two drugs conflict. And if two drugs conflict, it can result in death. Now, the alert didn't work. And what happened was, she, a 7-year-old woman, was basically given two drugs that conflicted, and she died. Why? Because the technology failed. You are playing with people's lives here, which is why there's regulation, which is why there are guiding rules and principles for doing this. But always, when you innovate in healthcare, think about the patient first and let the rest follow. Because if you don't get that part right, you won't get the business right, and you won't get the social aspect of innovating in healthcare right. So, now that you understand the challenges, the potential opportunities to go after, how do you think about building solutions? So this is a simple way to think about it, but put the patient first. Think from the patient's perspective. Think about how you would interact with the care, and start with very simple solutions. Start with solutions that don't necessarily scale very well. That solve discrete and specific problems. Create wedges in the ecosystem. Then pilot, learn, and scale. But most of all, remember, be patient. You are not going to see overnight successes in healthcare. It's not the way it works. It takes a lot of time, and a lot of that is because of the interconnectedness of it all. one stakeholder and the solution for them affects many others. You always need to think about that if you're creating innovation. So, now you've seen the complexity, the challenges, you've seen the ethical responsibility of innovating in healthcare. And if after all that, you still want to innovate in healthcare, we want to work with you because you're not the kind of people a little bit crazy, won't take no for an answer. And so come join us. I mean, in different ways, we're happy to help. We're happy to build the healthcare ecosystem here. Whether it's employment and internships, we're hiring a lot right now. We're expanding to Vietnam, Thailand, Indonesia, in the next quarter. We're looking for collaboration and partnerships. And if you guys need any help, happy to chat and help you guys through any issues you may have. So thank you very much for that.